Hello and welcome to another Stellarian Games video. In this episode we are going to be taking a little bit different direction and focusing on some tools of crafting rather than the craft itself. In this episode we're going to be looking at a modified exacto knife used to cut stone texture into styrofoam. So let's take a look at the approach. The stone cutting knife is a modified exacto blade used to cut the slits of the stone as well as bevel the edges. My first attempt, I had the idea, I wanted to use hot glue to give it just the beveling properties that would be necessary on the exacto knife. So I just used hot glue and kind of evenly spread the glue on both sides of the blade, turning it over so that it didn't run down over the actual blade itself, and then trying to shape that beveled edge so that it would have a bit of a point right out towards the tip of the blade. And it did work. I gave the beveled edge of the stone like I was looking for, but as you can see, the hot glue started to peel back on the blade, so it wasn't strong enough to hold for any length of use. So I switched to epoxy sculpt and mixed up a very small little pea-sized batch of epoxy sculpt and applied that to the blade instead. This one I actually did push around the front of the bottom edge of the blade because you wouldn't need to be cutting that low on the blade, just leaving the top probably 1/4 inch exposed on the blade. I used a sculpting tool to try to give it a nice slanted edge so that it would kind of pull through the styrofoam as you're cutting and beveling at the same time. Took me quite a while to get it so that it would leave just enough exposed and have the right angled shape. I let that now cure, and here is the result of the cutting. It does give it a nice beveled edge so that the stones look like it's more rounded stone look, and it held up much better than the hot glue did. I used the back end of the exacto knife to try to push in some of the stones to give it a little bit more of an uneven look. And I feel like this would be a pretty easy way of cutting stones in a more irregular pattern if you wanted to have a little bit nicer irregular pattern stone look. Using a sculpting tool to push the edges of some of them in, and then using a regular exacto blade to cut some of the front faces of the stones off as well to give it even more of an uneven texture. So overall, I think this technique worked fairly well for giving a quick stone texture. If you needed to do it on a house or whatnot, this would be an easy way of doing it. Really, this extra modified blade is to replace the extra step of having to go over all of your cut lines with a ballpoint pen. And I think the result turned out fairly well. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. If you'd like to see more videos of tools in the future, please leave a comment down below and let me know if you have specific tools that you'd like to see. Thank you.